What if every black person in America just stopped? Stopped protesting, stopped explaining, stopped carrying the weight of a country that never valued them or their labor. This is the story of what happens when Black America chooses rest, when ancestors start speaking, and when a movement begins, not with a march, but with a collective exhale. The Dreamscape Exodus, Book 1, written and narrated by Tallulah Crawford. Copyright Melanin Menagerie 2026. Now sit back, get comfortable, and let me tell you a story. Chapter 1, The Empty Streets. The Chyron at the bottom of CMN read, "No monarchy rally draws thousands. But where are the black protesters?" Anderson Mitchell leaned forward at his desk, his silver hair catching the studio lights just right, the way it had for the past 15 years of his career. He had that look, the one producers loved, concerned but authoritative, like a dad about to explain something important but disappointing. "We're seeing something unprecedented here, folks. These anti-authoritarianism rallies have drawn massive crowds across major cities: New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland. But our reporters on the ground are noting a significant demographic absence that's frankly puzzling." The screen split. On one side, Anderson at his desk. On the other, footage from that afternoon's rally in Washington, D.C. The camera swept across the crowd slowly, deliberately. Signs bobbed above heads. "Democracy, not dynasty. No kings in America. Resist authoritarianism now. Defend the Constitution." The faces holding those signs were overwhelmingly white. Scattered throughout were Asian Americans, Latino Americans, some immigrants with accents thick enough to hear even in the chants. But black faces? The camera kept searching. One here, two there, a small cluster near the back. In a movement that would typically see strong black participation, given this nation's deep history of civil rights organizing, given that black Americans have historically been at the forefront of democratic movements, we're seeing numbers that are, well, statistically anomalous. Anderson continued, his brow furrowed in that carefully practiced way. "Our data team estimates less than 3% black attendance at today's rallies across all major cities. That's down from typical protest participation rates of 15 to 20% or more." Cut to a field reporter, a young white woman with wind-blown hair standing in the thinning crowd. "Anderson, I've been here since the rally started at noon, and I can confirm the absence is notable. I've been approaching protesters all day asking if they've noticed, and the responses range from confusion to, well, let me show you." The footage cut to her earlier interviews. "Have you noticed there aren't many black people here today?" she asked a middle-aged white woman holding a "Protect Our Democracy" sign. The woman looked around, seemingly noticing for the first time. "Oh, that is weird, right? This affects everyone. Like, where are they?" Another interview, a young white man with a Bernie Sanders shirt. "Yeah, it is strange. Usually black folks are leading these things. Maybe they're planning their own march?" Another, an older white woman. "Well, I'm sure they're busy. Everyone's busy." Back to Anderson in the studio. "We reached out to several prominent black activists and organizations for comment. The NAACP declined to comment. The National Action Network declined to comment. Black Lives Matter leaders either did not respond or gave brief statements saying they were focusing on internal community work at this time." he shuffled his papers, a gesture that meant he was transitioning to his serious voice. We also reached out to several Black celebrities who have been politically vocal in the past. Again, either no response or brief statements about taking time to recharge or focusing on family. Even on social media, where Black activists typically have a strong presence during major political movements, there's been relative silence. The screen showed a scroll of Twitter accounts, major Black activists, celebrities, thought leaders, all with last posts from days or weeks ago. Nothing about the rallies, nothing about the new administration, just quiet. We'll continue to follow this story, Anderson concluded. Coming up after the break, we'll discuss what this absence might mean for the resistance movement going forward. Back in her Landover, Maryland apartment, Keisha Thompson clicked the TV off and let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her apartment was small, but hers. A one-bedroom in a complex that had seen better days, but was clean, safe, affordable. The walls were covered with things that made her smile. A poster from the last family reunion, her degree from Morgan State, photos of her nieces and nephews, a print of a Black cowgirl on horseback that she'd bought at an African American festival last summer. The print had become more meaningful lately. She'd been doing the ancestry work, the 23andMe test, the Ancestry.com deep dives, the hours spent in library archives, and she'd found them, her people. Her great-great-great-grandmother who'd ridden horses in Texas. Her great-great-grandfather who'd been a ranch hand, then a ranch owner. Whole branches of her family tree, full of Black cowboys and cowgirls. Their stories erased from the history books, but alive in old photographs and land deeds she'd managed to find. It had started her on a journey she hadn't expected. She'd bought boots, real ones, not the fashion kind, a hat, started going to line dancing nights at a Black-owned bar in Northeast D.C. There were more and more of them lately, these gatherings. Black folks reclaiming country music, reminding everyone who invented it in the first place. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album had blown the doors open, sure, but it had been brewing before that. Black folks on TikTok doing the Cupid shuffle in cowboy boots, Black rodeo competitions getting mainstream attention, documentaries about Black cowboys trending on Netflix. Keisha had watched herself transform over the past year. She'd stopped straightening her hair, wore it natural now, big and proud. She'd started dressing differently, more herself, less professional in that way that really meant acceptable to white people. She'd started listening to different music. She walked over to a record player, a vintage one she'd restored herself, and put on a record. Mickey Guyton's voice filled the apartment, rich and deep and unapologetically country. Then she switched to something older, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, the godmother of rock and roll who everyone forgot was a Black woman with a guitar. Then some new artist she'd found on Spotify, a young Black woman doing bluesy country fusion that made Keisha's chest ache with how good it was, how right it sounded. Real singers were back, thank the Lord. That's what Keisha had noticed over the past year. Black artists who could actually sing, not just perform, not just entertain, but sing. That old school church-trained, put your soul in every note kind of singing. The kind her grandmothers did. The kind that had gotten lost somewhere in the 2000s when everybody and their mama was auto-tuning everything. But it was coming back. Black folks were remembering who they were. What they sounded like when they weren't trying to fit into someone else's boxes. Her phone buzzed. The family group chat was going off. Marcus, Morehouse 09. Y'all watching this? They big mad we not out there. Laughing face. Tasha, the cousin. I'm so tired I could sleep for a year. Like actually just hibernate. DeAndre, her brother. Same energy they had when we said we were tired before. Shrug emoji. But you have to fight. But you have to protest. But you have to save democracy. Nah, y'all save democracy. We tired. Auntie Shanice. My grandmother didn't march for me to march. She marched so I could rest. So that's what I'm doing. Resting. Cousin Jamal. Besides, I'm busy. Started that business I've been talking about. Black-owned barbecue spot. Soft opening next month. Y'all are invited. Uncle T. That's what I'm talking about. Build our own. Invest in our own. Let them figure out their own problems. Marcus, Morehouse 09. Speaking of building our own, y'all see Traveling Black Man's videos from Ghana? I'm about to book a flight just to see what he's seeing. Keisha, I saw them. It's beautiful. Really beautiful. Tasha, the cousin. My friend Ebony just moved to Accra. She's a software engineer. Says she's making basically the same money, but her quality of life is 10 times better. I'm thinking about it too. Mama, y'all talking about leaving? Crying face emoji. Tasha, the cousin. Not leaving, Ma. Going home. Going back to where we came from. Where we not an afterthought. DeAndre, her brother. Real talk though. I'm tired of explaining racism to people who benefit from it. I'm tired of having conversations. I'm tired of being twice as good for half as much. I'm just tired. Marcus, Morehouse 09. We all tired, bro. That's why we're resting. That's why we're pulling back. That's why we're not at them rallies. Let them save themselves for once. Keisha read through the messages, feeling every word resonate in her chest. This was new. This unity, this collective decision to just stop, to stop carrying other people's problems, to stop being the moral compass of a nation that never valued their morality, to stop building a country that kept burning down their neighborhoods. She put her phone down and walked to her altar. It had started small, just a corner of her bedroom with a photo of her grandmother. But over the past few months, it had grown. Now, it took up half of her dresser top. Photos of ancestors she'd found in her research, her great-great-grandmother in a high-collared dress, serious-faced, strong. Her great-great-grandfather in cowboy attire, hat tilted just so, holding reins. Her grandmother, young and beautiful, at a civil rights march in the 60s. There were candles, white ones, like her grandmother used to light in church. A small bowl of water, a piece of kente cloth her aunt had bought back from a trip to Ghana 5 years ago. Some crystals a friend had given her, sage from the Botanica in Hyattsville, a small statue of an African goddess whose name she still was learning to pronounce correctly. She didn't consider herself particularly spiritual. She'd grown up Baptist, went to church most Sundays with her mama, sang in the choir as a kid. But this was different. This felt older, more primal, more true. She'd felt pulled to this space over the past few months, pulled to light these candles every night, pulled to speak to people she'd never met but whose blood ran through her veins, pulled to ask for protection, for guidance, for strength. Keisha feels pulled to her altar even though she doesn't consider herself particularly spiritual. Have you ever felt drawn to something you couldn't quite explain? Drop a comment. I do read them all. Keisha prayed. I don't even know if y'all hear me, she whispered, lighting the candles one by one. The flames danced, casting shadows across the photos. But if you do, we're tired. We've been tired. And I don't know what to do anymore except rest. So that's what we're going to do. We're resting. She sat cross-legged on the floor, watching the candles flicker. Outside, she could hear the sounds of her neighborhood. Cars passing, someone's music playing, kids laughing in the parking lot even though it was getting dark. normal sounds, life sounds. But something felt different, something in the air, like the moment before a storm when everything gets quiet and still, and you just know something's about to change. She didn't know that 3,000 miles away in Oakland, a man named Jerome was lighting identical candles and saying nearly the same words. Or that in Atlanta, a woman named Shanice was setting up her own altar, guided by instincts she could not name. Or that in Houston, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, New Orleans, Charlotte, and 100 other cities, thousands more Black folks were doing the same thing. She didn't know that this moment, this collective exhale, this simultaneous decision to stop, to rest, to pull back, was about to ripple through the country like an earthquake. She didn't know that tonight, for the first time in her 34 years, she would dream the same dream as 15 million other people. All she knew was that she was tired, bone tired, soul tired, 400 years tired, and she was done. Later that night, Keisha made herself dinner, leftover jollof rice from the Senegalese restaurant down the street, some collard greens she'd cooked on Sunday, cornbread. She ate while scrolling through social media, half watching a Netflix show she'd seen before. Twitter was a mess, as usual. White progressives were panicking about the new administration, sharing think pieces about fascism and authoritarianism, tagging Black activists demanding they weigh in, lead marches, and write op-eds. Keisha scrolled past them all. Instagram was better. Her feed had slowly transformed over the past year. She'd unfollowed anyone who drained her energy, anyone who made her feel guilty for resting, anyone who demanded her labor for free. Now, her feed was mostly Black joy. Black families at reunions, Black couples getting married, Black kids graduating, Black businesses opening, Black people traveling, and not just to Europe anymore, but to Africa, the Caribbean, places where they weren't tourists but returning family. Black cowboys, lots of Black cowboys lately. Black women in full Western attire, sitting proud on horses. Black men at rodeos. Videos of Black men lion dancing to country music at Black-owned bars. Everyone in boots and hats, reclaiming a culture that had always been theirs. She watched a video of a Black woman singing, really singing, the kind of singing that raised bumps on your arms. It was a blues song, old school, the kind Etta James would have sung, but this woman was young, maybe 25, with locks down her waist and a voice that seemed to come from somewhere ancient. The comments were full of Black folks celebrating. "This is what we sound like when we're not trying to fit in," one said. "She sang that. No auto-tune, no gimmicks, just voice," said another. "Black music is healing. We're healing, y'all," said one more. Keisha liked the video, saved it, shared it to her story. Then she saw a post from her friend Monica, who'd moved to Atlanta last year. "Y'all, I just had the most beautiful day," the caption read. The photo showed Monica at a Black-owned bookstore, at a Black-owned restaurant, at a park full of Black families. I realized I went the entire day without code switching once, without shrinking myself, without being the only Black person in any space. And it felt like breathing, like I've been holding my breath my whole life and finally let it out. The comments were full of people sharing similar experiences. One said, "I moved to a majority Black neighborhood last year and my stress levels have dropped. I didn't realize how much energy I was spending just existing in white spaces." Another said, "I changed jobs to a Black-owned company, make a little less money, but my peace, priceless." Yet another stated, "I stopped going to predominantly white spaces unless absolutely necessary. My therapist says my anxiety has improved dramatically." Keisha understood. She started doing the same thing. She bought her groceries from the Black-owned market now, even though it was a little further away and did cost a little more. She got her hair done at a Black salon. She went to a Black doctor. She banked at a Black-owned credit union. She bought her clothes from Black designers when she could afford it. It wasn't about segregation. It was about sanctuary. It was about not having to armor up every time she left her house. It was about keeping her money in her community. It was about building the world she wanted to live in, one choice at a time. She finished eating, washed her dishes, and got ready for bed. Her nighttime routine had changed too. She used shea butter now instead of the expensive lotions full of toxins marketed to her by companies that didn't even employ Black people. She wore a bonnet to bed like her grandmother taught her. She read before sleep. Lately it had been Octavia Butler novels, stories about Black futures, Black power, Black people surviving and thriving in impossible circumstances. Tonight it was Parable of the Sower. She read the passage where Lauren talks about God being in charge, about how everything that touches you changes you, and you change everything you touch. The words felt prophetic. She set the book down, turned off the light, and closed her eyes. "Good night, Grandma," she whispered to the darkness, the way she had since her grandmother passed 5 years ago. "Good night, ancestors. Protect us, guide us, help us remember who we are." Outside her window, the night was quiet. November in Maryland, cold enough to need heat, but not freezing yet. The kind of night where the world felt hushed, waiting. Keisha's breathing slowed. Her body relaxed. Her mind drifted. And somewhere in that space between waking and sleeping, between the physical world and whatever lay beyond, something shifted. Some door opened. Some connection was made. 15 million Black Americans across the country closed their eyes that night. And for the first time in history, they all dreamed the same dream. In her sleep, Keisha smiled. She didn't know why yet, but somewhere deep in her bones, in that place where memory lives older than words, she knew everything was about to change. Keisha is about to have a dream that will change everything. If you could receive guidance from your ancestors right now, what would you want them to tell you? If you're enjoying this journey, please like this video, subscribe for the next episode, and comment below with your thoughts. Your engagement helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. Be sure to check out our next episode. We're going into the dreamscape, and you don't want to miss it.